Hello! Today I'm going to take you through an introduction to power chords, or as they're also known, five chords. So, probably so far, most of the chords you've learned have been open chords. Those are chords that utilize open strings, such as your A, or your D, or your G, or E. Right, so each one of those chords has at least one open string in them. Like for your A, we got open A and open E. Right, so for power chords, or five chords as they're known, we're not going to use open strings. We're going to be fretting every string we're playing. But luckily, for five chords, we're only playing 3 strings. So, let's start off with an easy one. So, one thing that you might want to do, and we can go over this right now, is figure out the names of all of your frets up to 5 for every string. So, if we know our musical alphabet, we know it has 7 letters: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then we start back over at A. So the guitar neck is laid out chromatically, which means by half steps. So unlike a piano where we have black keys and white keys, on the guitar we just have frets in a line. So we need to kind of start figuring out where our musical alphabet lies on the guitar neck. Obviously we know that all of our open strings have names: E, A, D, G, B, and E, right? So we already know those. Those are the notes that those open strings, those are the pitches that when they ring, that's an E, just like on the piano. There's your E. So if we were to go up 1 fret from E, or 1 half step, that'd be like going up 1 key on the piano, black or white. So we have E. The next one up would be F. And then instead of having a black key for a sharp or a flat, we just have a regular fret. So we have to know that the second fret of E is not an F, it's not a G, it's the note in between. It would be like a black key on the piano. It's going to be either F sharp or G flat, depending on which key we're in. So then the next note, 3, would be G. And then we would have another black key note. So it's not G, it's not A, it's the one in between. It's either G sharp or A flat for the 4th fret. And then we get to A. Because, right, we know that the 5th fret of one string is the next string's note. So that's why it's important to memorize up to 5. Because we know that 5 of E is A. Because that's how we can tune our guitar. Alright, so let's move on to the A string. So we know that open, that's the A note, right? So what comes next? Right? It would be one of those black key notes. So it would either be B flat or A sharp. The 2nd fret would be a nice musical alphabet note, B. And then because there is no black key between B and C, there's no half step in between it, the next fret, the 3rd fret of A, would be C. And we can also know this because our C chord, that's the root of it. The next one would be a black key note because there's a half step between C and D. So it'd be either C sharp or D flat. And then we get to D, because that's what the next string is. 5th fret, next string. All right, on to the D string. Open, we have D. Then we're going to have one of those half step black key notes, right? It's either going to be E flat or D sharp. And then if we remember our octave exercise, we come to E, our first octave. Those notes are the same as the open string, Because remember, we skip a string and go 2 frets up, and we have an octave. So there's our E. Again, there's no black key between E and F, so our 3rd fret would be F. And then we're back again at the start, right? The pattern repeats because we got octaves. So then we'd have either F sharp or G flat. And then our 5th fret is our next string down, G. All right, on to the G string. So open, easy, G. Then we have either A flat or G sharp as the 1st fret. Then we have another octave to an open string, A. Right? Then we have another one of those black key notes. A sharp or B flat. And then we get back to our musical alphabet, B. Right? And this is the only weird one. Right? The next string down is B, and that's on the 4th fret. And then, since there's no black key between B and C, our 5th fret would be C. Then we get to the B string. And we have a nice little repeat because we just did B, C. When we have B again, 1st fret of B would be C. Then we'd have either the C sharp or D flat. Then we have another octave here. We have a D. Then we have either a D sharp or E flat. And then we have our E. And then finally, the E string just repeats, same as the low E string. We have E, F, F sharp, G, A flat, A. Okay, so now that we've named all of the frets on every string up to the 5th fret, we can now start making our power chords. So, what is a power chord? Well, a power chord is a root note, and then a perfect 5th, and then an octave. So, if we wanted to make a C power chord or a C5 chord, we're going to start with our root note C. And then if you remember your 5ths exercise from our guitar rudiments, a 5th is just the next string up and 2 frets up. Or if we want to go by half steps, a 5th from C would be, if we start counting C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's the distance of 8 half steps, so 8 frets. So if we start on C and we go up 8 frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? We obviously can't play 2 notes on the same string at the same time. So we'd have to find this note on the next string down. And it's going to be 1 string and 2 frets up. So we have root, and then this interval or distance between would be called a perfect 5th, the distance of 8 half steps. And then, if you remember from your octave video, 2 frets up and 2 strings up is our octave. So it'd be another C. So it would be C, the perfect 5th, which is G, and then another C. So for our C power chord, if we're going to go by frets, we have A string, 3rd fret. Then we take our 3rd finger to the D string, 5th fret. And then we take our 4th finger, our pinky finger, to the G string, 5th fret. So there's your power chord, right? Okay, so say we wanted to make a G5 chord or a G power chord. We're going to find a G on the guitar neck. So we remember our E string has a G on it. It's on the 3rd fret. Then we got to find that perfect 5th. So you can either do the hard work of counting up 8 half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and trying to find that note on the next string, or you can remember that a perfect fifth is the next string up and 2 frets up. So it would be G, the perfect fifth, which is D, the 5th fret of A, and then our octave, which is 2 strings up and 2 frets up. So there's our G5 or G power chord. Cool. So this shape, which is using the first finger, the third finger, and the fourth finger, middle finger's not involved, that shape is our power chord shape. And we're going to work mainly on the A and the E string for our power chord roots. So a lot of times you'll hear someone say, okay, make a power chord with the root on E3. Okay, well, they just gave us 1 fret and 1 string. How are we supposed to make a chord out of that? Well, if we know our power chord shape, then we can snap to that. Right? We just need to know where to put that first finger, because the rest of the shape we already have. So say if someone said, it's a power chord on A7. Well, we know that 3, 5, 7, A string, we put the root there. We know we're going to go up 1 string with our third finger, 2 frets up. So that would end up being D9. And then we're going to go up 2 strings and up 2 frets, G9. And we got our power chord. So it's an easy way to just tell someone how to play a song. If you want to just do it by power chords, you just have to tell them 1 string and a fret. The benefit of 5 chords or power chords is that they're not major or minor. With your open chords, they always have a major or minor delineation, like your A chord versus your A minor chord, right? Major, minor. There's 2 different shapes for that A chord. Same with E. Major, minor. Same with D. Major, minor. They have distinctly different sounds. That's because it has a third in it. We can get into music theory another time. But because this is only a root, a fifth, and an octave, it's not major or minor. So we can play these chords over anything, really. We just have to have the root correct. Right? Okay, so to review, we want to have this shape memorized. This shape spans 3 frets, right? With the root being closer to the headstock of the guitar and the fifth and the octave being closer to the body. So don't get mixed up and put your root way down on, like, get something like this going, or, the root is always going to be the lowest note and also the highest note because it's an octave with the fifth in between. And your fingers should kind of stack. We should have the first finger on the lowest string, closest to the headstock. The third finger on the middle string, on the same fret as the fourth finger. We're not going to, until we start putting roots on the D string, we're not going to span more than 3 frets. So the third and the fourth finger are always going to be together on the same fret. All right, we're going to get into the biggest part of this and the most important part. Now that we have the shape memorized, now that we know how to name them, and now that we know what notes are part of our 5 or power chords. The biggest part, and the part that people struggle with the most with these chords, is muting the other strings. And it's tough. It took me a long time to figure out how to do it. It's not easy. I'm only playing 3 strings, so how do I keep the other 3 strings from ringing, right? That's the hardest part. We don't want to play a chord like this. That one doesn't sound too bad. when we don't mute those other strings, the tone of the chord, the tonality of the chord completely changes. It stops being that perfect fifth chord that's neither major or minor. We get other notes in there that affect where we can put that chord. Now, that might sound kind of cool for the right song, but it's not a 5 chord anymore once we have those strings ringing. So what we have to do is we got to use the fingers that we are using to play to mute. So if we're rooting the note or the chord on the E string, the low E string, we don't have to block anything underneath of it, mute anything rather. So what we want to do is we want to lay our first finger over the other strings to mute them. Right? So what we want to do, it's kind of tricky, and like I said, it took me a little while to figure this out, and it usually does with most guitarists. A lot of times we want to think we're putting all that pressure into the fingertip, right? So we got to have that good C shape that we've always talked about. Well, what we want to do is get the pressure in the finger and then slowly start to flatten it out so that finger just barely touches all the other strings. So there's still pressure in the tip that's pushing that string down so it rings, it doesn't buzz out. But we're also going to put a little tiny bit of pressure over the rest of the finger so that it mutes or blocks the other strings. Right? Okay, so E is the easiest one to mute because you don't have to worry about muting any lower strings, just higher ones. But when we're rooting these chords on the A string, we have to worry about the low E ringing. So this becomes even more difficult. Not only do we have to keep the pressure in the fingertip to push the string down on the A string, we also have to let the finger slightly overlap. I'm going to get a little closer so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. We have to, instead of putting the finger right on the tip, we're going to kind of push down a little bit with the middle of the first joint of the first finger so that the fingertip actually touches the E string to mute it. And then we're going to lay down the rest of the finger so that it mutes all the other strings. So all the muting is done with the first finger. The first finger has a lot of work to do in these chords. So when we're playing songs that use these 5 chords, we want to make sure that we're muting all the strings so that our right hand can just hit all the strings. Because we don't have time in a song to worry about, okay, well here I can only hit A, D, and G. And then for this next chord, I can only hit with my right hand E, A, and D, and oh shoot, I hit G. We don't want to worry about that. We just want to be able to hit them all and know that our first finger is going to do all the muting for us. Right? We don't want to have to worry about that. So you really got to work on that muting to make sure that you don't have to worry about what your right hand's doing. Your right hand can just whack all the strings, and your left hand will take care of the muting. All right, have fun with these chords. They're a great resource, and as a beginning guitar player, allow you to play so many songs that would normally be kind of outside of your reach when you're first starting out. Power chords helped me play so many songs when I was first starting out and made playing guitar way more fun because I didn't have to worry about bar chords right away. And these are a great introduction to bar chords because they teach you how to play multiple strings with one finger. You know, you're just muting the strings right now, but eventually that first finger will be in charge of playing more than one string, not just playing one string and muting a bunch of other ones. All right, have fun with your power chords and don't get too frustrated with them right away. They will come, believe me.